All right, I want to get started. Thank you all so much for being here. This is our IIDA Student Mentoring Program Kickoff webinar as a part of our 2021 IIDA Student Mentoring Program, which is going to be entirely virtual this year. My name is Ryan Ben. I'm the Director of Association Experience at IIDA headquarters, and we're really glad to have everybody here. We've got an exciting panel to tell us a little bit more about the mentoring experience and to share some tips, tricks, insights, and other pieces of information. Before we get to that, I have some information to share with all of you. I imagine that most of you here are a part of our mentoring program. And so I just want to remind you of some dates and some other information. So some important dates for our mentoring program. We are asking that all of you meet sometime between March 16th and April 30th. That's about 6 weeks for your mentoring sessions to take place. This year, because it's entirely virtual, we're asking that each pair or each threesome, aim for a total of 3 virtual mentoring sessions, an hour or so in length. At the end of all of these sessions, at the end of this 6 weeks, we're going to have a what to do next webinar that will be similar in style to this webinar, where we'll hear from some mentors in a conversation about what to do after your mentoring session is complete. One final set of dates I want to share with all of you is for our Wilson Art essay competition. This is from our sponsor, Wilson Art, who we work with every single year. We have an essay competition that's going to be open from March 29th until May 21st. So that should give you enough time, even if your last session is at the end of April, you should have enough time to submit for the essay contest. More information is available online. Some things to remember, and I'm going to open up my chat and attendee box so I can share this with you all right now, live in the moment. We've got some resources for you all to take advantage of. One is our guide. We made a really, really amazing guide for all of you to take advantage of. I'm going to put it right here in the chat. That PDF is a great resource to plan your upcoming mentoring experience. We're going to talk about some things today during the panel that I think will be helpful to hear, but you also will have this guide and access to this guide to help plan these sessions with your mentor or mentee. We also have an FAQ that I'm going to put in the chat right now. The FAQ is great to answer just some lingering questions that you might have about the program or to understand where the Wilson Art Essay Competition information is. All of that's available on our website. The last thing I will share with you is that I want to encourage all of you, mentor or mentee, to email me for any kind of help that you might need. So you can email students@iida.org with any and all questions you might have about the program. So if you need to change your mentor, if you have some other circumstance come up, if you have questions about what to do, if you're nervous, anything like that, please reach out. I'm really excited about the program this year. I think we've been able to include mentors and mentees from all across the country and world, which we've never been able to do. So it's an exciting time to be involved. So if you have any questions that you think are preventing you from getting involved or from doing the mentoring moment, please, please, please let me know. We will be sharing this recording of this webinar after it is over. I saw a question come in about the slides. I will make sure that the information from the slides and the recording are all on our website when this is done. So thank you for asking that, Ali. I appreciate it. So without further ado, I want to start our panel portion of our program. We have 4 incredible panelists here to talk about the mentoring experience. And I'm going to ask them each to introduce themselves right now, and then we'll get started with our discussion. So Jonathan, can you introduce yourself to everybody who's attending?
Hi, everyone. My name is Jonathan Kirkus. I'm a senior interior design major at Texas State University. I am slash was a lead peer mentor at the university for 2.5 years. And then I'm also the Texas Oklahoma IDA student representative.
Awesome, Jonathan. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. Natalie, can you introduce yourself?
Hello, I am Natalie Rios. So maybe for a little bit of background about myself, I graduated from the Virginia Tech Interior Design Program in 2015. And after school, I worked in the Gensler DC office for about 2 years. And then I transferred to the Gensler LA office. So I've been here for about 4 years. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh yeah, of course. Thank you so much. Lorraine, can you introduce yourself for us?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Lorraine Rowan. I have about a decade of experience in interior design. I went to Cal State Long Beach. graduated in 2012 and have worked in the gamut of high-end residential to commercial to now healthcare interior design. So I'm excited to share my experience and talk a little bit more with you all.
Thank you so much, Lorraine. Appreciate it. And last but certainly not least, Amanda, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Sutanto. I'm currently a junior retail designer at Nike, and I was part of the IIDA mentorship program last year. And yeah, really happy to be here and excited to talk to you all.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I believe last year was when you were paired with Lorraine, right?
Oh, I was actually paired with Natalie last year.
Natalie last year?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
awesome. Natalie, that's what it was. Awesome. Thank you so much. That's great. Well, I'm really excited to have all of you here. We're going to go through some questions now, have a conversation about the mentoring experience. We also want to ask questions from all of you too and answer questions from all of you. So feel free to throw them into the chat. Feel free to put them into the Q&A, and I'm going to try and leave 10 minutes at the end in order to get to any and all questions. So Lorraine, I want to start with you. Just generally in the profession of commercial interior design, what do you see is the role of a mentor? Why does mentorship matter in this industry?
It's a great question. I think mentorship, just like any other interpersonal relationship, adds depth and dimension and richness to our life. So experience and guidance that you're not getting maybe from your family or your friends who are in different industries, you really get that from a mentor. And so that's what I think the value of mentorship is in our industry specifically, is guiding junior staff and students down the path of, there's many different roads we can take, and which one do you choose? There's no right answer, but all we can do is sort of talk and provide insight.
Awesome. I like that so much. Natalie, I gave Lorraine credit for your mentoring experience, but I should have given it to you. So tell me a little bit about what mentoring means to you. Why did you sign up? What did you find the value to be?
Yeah, so, kind of building off of what Lorraine mentioned, a mentor is there to guide you, but they're there to advocate for you in our respective offices. So I know in a big company like Gensler, it can be overwhelming in terms of size. And so it's really important to have some kind of close relationship with someone who's more senior than you, so they can kind of guide you through that process and really advocate for you within the office and within the studio.
Yeah, I like that so much. I think advocating is such a huge part of this process. Amanda, can you tell me a little bit about why you signed up for the program? Why was mentoring so important to you last year?
Yeah, for sure. So I joined the mentorship program when I was a senior in Art Center College of Design. And I think what really attracted me to it was to really get to know the industry on a different level, and to meet people like Natalie, who really guided me and really opened my eyes to the world of interior design in the professional world, and how it differed from school and how things are also similar in some ways.
Awesome. Yeah, I like that so much. Jonathan, you have kind of a unique mentoring experience because I know you're involved in some peer-to-peer mentoring that you do at the school. So for you, what does this mean? What does mentoring mean? Why is it important to you and your fellow peers in this profession?
Yeah, so I think it's just important to be a guiding block for someone, or have someone that is your own guiding block. So I think that's something that's really important for mentoring, just getting that person, just building that relationship with them, so that even when you can build long-lasting relationships, so they can always be your mentor, maybe not just this 3 months that this program is or something. It's just create something that's long lasting that you can always go to and know that you can always go for them for advice.
Yeah, I like that so much. I think the value of a mentoring experience like this, or from another association or a firm or anything like that, is this practice in relationship building. I very much feel like this is a profession of relationships. So when you get good at that skill, I think it really expands on whatever you've learned or whatever your background or expertise might be that's specific to the industry. This is definitely an industry of people. So it's really important to know that. So before mentoring, what can students do to set themselves up for success? Amanda, I'm going to go to you first. What did you do to set yourself up for success before mentoring with Natalie?
I think definitely research is one of the advice that I can give. If you research about, like, after you get paired, and research about what you look for in a mentor, and also interpersonal research, like think about what you actually want to do after school, and like how that would affect what you look for in a mentor. That's really important, I think, and it will really give this mentoring relationship kind of background that is important to it.
Yeah, Amanda, I'm smiling because I feel like the phrase research what you actually want to do is super valuable. I want to call it out because I think that a mentoring experience like this is an excellent opportunity to have a very introspective conversation with yourself of what do I really want to do? What has really stuck out to me so far in school, or what's so stuck out that really matters to me? And having a conversation with your mentor about that, I think, is really valuable.
Yeah, for sure.
Natalie, what recommendations can you give to students? What can they do before mentoring to maybe set themselves up for success?
Yeah, so a couple things that I think Amanda did really well. One of them, I would recommend having some kind of, work sample, portfolio, resume, just have it ready. It doesn't necessarily mean that you will share it, maybe you will, but I think what happens is, people really liked Amanda in my studio and they wanted to know more. So they wanted to see her work, and she just kind of had it on hand, and that really helped. And I would also say that Amanda had, just a lot of questions ready, which kind of goes off of, she did a lot of research. So she just had some questions on hand. So, if there's an awkward pause in the meeting, feel free to ask one of the questions that you've been wanting to know an answer for, because it just helps people know that you're eager and you're excited and you're curious.
Yeah, I like that so much. That's terrific advice. Lorraine, what advice can you give? What can students do to prepare for their mentoring session?
Yeah, building on top of what Amanda and Natalie both have already mentioned, which are all great, I think the key is to start with why. There's a book, Start With Why by Simon Sinek, and I think that's super important. It's not just an affliction that students have, it's an affliction that goes on for life with creatives, I feel like, that we don't necessarily always know what's our purpose, what's the path, who's going to tell me. So really doing some preliminary just brainstorming with yourself about what am I actually trying to achieve in my career, and how could this person that I'm meeting with help me get there? Or if not, how can I, position myself to ask the right questions? So I think having that in your back pocket is only going to empower you for the rest of your career trajectory. So always start with why.
I like that so much. I think that's fantastic advice. Jonathan, what do you see people doing? What do you see students doing, your peers? How are they preparing for these mentoring sessions to set themselves up for success?
Yeah, so gonna put that IIDA plug in there, but always go to like IIDA events and stuff. I think that's something
Thank you,
that's
Jonathan. Thank you.
really helpful. That's what from my school, just my perspective, that's just something that I see a lot of our students doing, is just going to those review sessions, just going like learning more, but just like everyone said on the panel already, just coming up with those questions beforehand and just knowing what you want to get out of it. The intern or the mentorship is just, it's going to be what you want to get out of it. So if you really want to dig deep and ask those questions you want to ask, just go for it. Don't be afraid. Don't be scared. Think that you only have to ask like, oh, like, what do you do on a day-to-day basis? Like, if you want to know more, like just, it's all, that's what this, this mentorship process is for. It's for you to get to know really what design is and what you want to do. So if you're a mentorship in a healthcare firm, ask a lot of those questions that you think you want to know, and see if that's exactly where you want to be at.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I would add on to that this program is always intended to meet you where you are. So if you have certain kinds of questions you want to ask and they have nothing to do with your portfolio, don't worry about going over your portfolio. If you feel like that is set up and good to go, that's fine. You can talk with your mentor about something else. There really are no roadblocks for you to participate in this. So if you don't have a portfolio, you don't have a website, you maybe don't have you just started. We had some sophomores sign up this year that I know were nervous just because they feel like they don't have the experience to dictate a mentoring session. I don't think that that's the way to approach it. I think come up with what you want to talk about what you want to, know more about, ask the questions you want to ask. And I think that that's a great way to get started. So I want to jump into, we're going to be in this virtual environment. We've all been doing this virtual environment for a year. The four of you I know are very adept at this. So just, either generally or specific to mentoring, how can students navigate this virtual moment with their mentor in a successful way? Natalie, let's start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe some easy ones first, like just having your camera on, being optimistic and excited to be there. People can really like sense your energy through the screen, and that's really all we have. So playing that up. And then, I find many times when I'm in meetings with people that are more senior than me, I get nervous to ask questions when I don't really understand what's going on. And I've learned that, people really respect your curiosity and appreciate it when you, ask somebody to help you understand like a certain process and in a project that they're working on. So I would urge the mentees, if you're in a meeting and you want to know more about what is going on in the meeting, you don't quite understand, don't feel nervous to speak up and ask the question, because I think people really appreciate that.
Yeah, I like that a lot. We had a question just now come in to us that was kind of like, what sorts of questions should students ask? And I actually think you gave everybody a really good north, which is follow your own curiosity. What are you curious about? What do you want to know more about? There's no program for which questions to ask. There's no rules as to what they should look like or how they should sound or what they should be about. So I think following your curiosity, following your why, those are great places to start if you're looking for kind of what to talk about or what to ask about. Jonathan, what about you? What advice do you have for kind of navigating what will be a virtual mentoring moment this year?
Yeah, I think the thing that I like about this being virtual is it's very personable. So you can have that one-on-one conversation with your mentor, and there's not really a lot of distractions. So just my advice is just take that in consideration and just do a great job with that. Just like you said, come with a lot of questions to ask. Just be engaged. They're gonna know if you're kind of shy and stuff. That's okay, but just don't be afraid to ask any of those questions that you're really wanting to ask. And that's even what's even nice about that, about it being more in this virtual setting, is that it's just you and that mentor. You're not necessarily surrounded by other people, so you might be kind of scared if you're in crowds or in a big meeting to ask some of those questions. But if it's more one-on-one, then you're more not obligated. You're more able and feel more supported to ask those questions and have a good answer to them.
Yeah, I love that. I would say I think people find success in this when they share about themselves a little bit of vulnerability. So if you are nervous, if you don't know what questions to ask, if you need a little bit more guidance, that's okay. I think you can tell your mentor that. If you're a mentor and you feel like you're in a spot of like, oh, I'm not 100% sure, I haven't done this, ask me, reach out to other peers that have maybe mentored alongside you. That is totally okay. I don't think that anybody has to be perfect at this in order to engage with it. Lorraine, what other virtual tips or tricks can we share with some of the attendees who may be doing this for the first time?
Yeah, one good tip that I got actually for doing virtual interviews is just to over communicate and just make sure that you're making eye contact into the screen and into the lens. And it's a weird thing because if you're looking at the faces on the screen, you're actually not making eye contact. You actually have to look at the little camera. So that's a little trick to make it feel even more personal that you're connecting with people. And then I'd also say just take advantage of the extra time. The day of the mentoring isn't the only time you can communicate with people. You can do some work up front, maybe as the mentor, if you're worried that what you have to provide, you're not sure if it'll be helpful, to sort of figure out what your mentee needs. And then after, encourage the mentees to follow up with you and sort of check in and ask any questions that sort of came up or bubbled to the surface after they reflected on the experience. So take advantage of time.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I mean, we've got this 6-week window this year, and we're only asking really that you meet 3 times. So there's a lot of gaps potentially in there for reflection, for, pivoting, or, if you had a plan to do something in the next session, and as you think about it, to Lorraine's point, you maybe are like, I actually think I want to spend more time here, or, I thought more about what you said about XYZ. Can we go in that direction next time? This is definitely the environment to do that in. That's why it's so great. Amanda, any other thoughts or suggestions about navigating this virtual mentoring moment?
Yeah, I thought everyone really voiced out great opinions and ideas. And I just wanted to add, based on what was said before, just like take advantage of the 3 times to really build like that personal connection, just like what everyone has been saying. But it's really challenging at this time where we're all through Zoom, but also use that to your advantage to really build that long-lasting personal connection that you might have with your mentor and mentee.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I want to shift gears just a little bit and talk about the nervousness, the stress of doing this. I think for a lot of the people who sign up for this program, mostly students, but I know for some of the mentors too, it's a little nerve-wracking. The mentoring relationship is a powerful one and can mean a lot to people, and it can feel a little like, the stakes are high. And so I just want to hear from the 4 of you, and maybe we can start with Jonathan. What can we do to help ourselves maybe take some of those nerves away, lower the stakes a little bit, and make it so we can have a little bit more fun with this instead of maybe being so in our heads?
Yeah, so I think something that I do always when I'm just talking or mentoring someone, or just even I'm a mentee myself or something, is just vocalize that vulnerability. Just be like, hey, I'm kind of nervous right now. And that's okay. We're all human. We're all going to be nervous, those kinds of things. So I think that definitely, and it gets like I said, we just got to chuckle at a lot of us. Like that just gets that kind of nervousness kind of out and about. And even if you just have to kind of tell them, give me a second, those long pauses, that's okay. You need to think, time to think, just think. They're here to help you, and that's nothing to be scared about. So yeah, that's kind of what I got.
Yeah, I like that. You can't hide it. I mean, to your point earlier, if you're nervous, people know you're nervous. If you're excited, people know you're excited. And that's not a negative or a positive thing. I think it's just more honest. And so when you are honest about it, then it kind of sucks a lot of the power away from it. I'm a little nervous. Oh, great. Then I don't have to wonder, like, is this person not enjoying this? Is there something else going on? If it's just that, then we can address that together. So take the power away from it. I like that a lot. Amanda, what do you do for nerves? How do you kind of lower the stakes for these so you can be really successful?
Yeah, for sure. I think in a lot of times we don't realize that maybe the other person is also nervous or feeling the same way as well. So just like realizing that we're all human, just like Jonathan said, and just going with the flow and talking about maybe not too focused at first about straight into like career or interior design, but just talking about life or what are your interests can really get the ball going and kind of break the ice a little bit.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, be a human being who has interests and things that they want to talk about. I think that that's really good advice. It's so hard to remember though, because I feel like you just get in your head and you're like, I've got to go through all this stuff. I've got to ask these questions. This is a really big deal. This might be an internship or a job, or, be in the moment a little bit, be present in that moment, be a little human. I think it kind of takes it away. Natalie, how about from you? What can you suggest?
Yeah, kind of similar to what everyone's been saying. I mean, I'm nervous right now, I'm nervous right now. I was
Thank you.
nervous when I was Amanda's mentor. We're all just figuring it out, and it's okay. I would, for myself, a lot of the times I just try and fake it, fake the confidence until you feel it, and it does work. So just deep breaths. We're all in this together.
Yeah, that's great. And while you were saying that, somebody just sent us in the chat that they thought another thing that's important for mentors is the ability to tell their mentee that they don't know. That's okay. It's okay to tell someone, I don't actually know that, or I don't have that, or I don't feel comfortable talking about that, or I don't have that expertise. That is totally okay. The benefit of this profession is the thing that this program's trying to help us all with, which is these connections, these moments. So in all likelihood, if you don't know something, I bet you know someone who does. And so again, we've got these windows of time to do the reflection that Lorraine mentioned, but that also gives us time to maybe reach out to peers or colleagues to help us flesh out that experience for the student, or vice versa. So Lorraine, what about you? What can you do? What do you do for nerves personally, or what suggestions do you have for students?
Yeah, I mean, everyone had great points already, so I totally am on the same page with all of that. I think humility is super important, just being like, hey, I'm nervous. Let's just take a breather, get to know each other. We're both just have a little fun, shake it up a little, and know that if you do have nerves, that you're human, and it just means that you care, that you're invested, and maybe shake off the judgment part of it and just let yourself be your authentic, creative, amazing person.
Yeah, I say this a lot. I've been at IIDA for almost 10 years now, and I feel like the IIDA or any other association, these experiences, they are intended to not be the high stakes, stressful experiences that you might have in another setting. So use this moment to fail at something. Use this moment to ask a question you're not sure about asking. Use this moment to have a hard time with tech. It will feel better to screw up now than it will on a job interview later. So use it. I mean, that's what it's kind of intended to be. In that same vein, Lorraine, I want to stay with you. Are there any like taboos or things not to do? Are there questions not to ask? I mean, is there anything in this kind of mentoring relationship that we can tell students or mentors that we should avoid just to kind of keep them successful?
Yeah, I mean, if you're working on a project maybe that has a non-disclosure agreement involved, maybe there's something there to say, you know, I might be sharing this with you now, but it doesn't leave this room, or things like that might be sort of the boundaries of the actual parameters of what's in a contract for the work that you're working on. But beyond that, just on a broad scale, I think everyone's time is very valuable. So just be very respectful. I know you're going to have a lot of questions for your mentee or for your mentor, but just know that everyone's time is valuable and everyone gets busy, and just be gracious with people's time.
That's great. Natalie, what other advice do we have?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for me, the big thing, you just want to be excited to be there and have good energy and just be curious. And so anything that can kind of take away from that, you know, like if you're just not super engaged, maybe, you know, on your phone, don't have your camera on, you're not totally participating in the conversation. I think, you know, those are some good things to avoid.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, you know, you have to show up. That's mandatory. You can't, this will not come to you. You have to be involved in it in order to
Yes.
get anything out of it.
Got to commit.
Agree. You got to commit. I like that. Yeah. Amanda, what about you? Did you hit any taboos? Did you hit anything that you felt like?
Yeah,
Good.
for sure. Oh, so for me, I guess it's more of like an advice to students or mentees, to not kind of treat this as a job interview, because it's definitely not that. It's not a taboo, but I just feel like once you get into that mindset of like the job interview mindset, it kind of creates that barrier between you and the mentor to really make any long-lasting experience or relationship. So yeah, that's kind of just a little bit for me.
Yeah, Amanda, thank you. You took some words right out of my mouth, because I like to reiterate that this mentoring experience is not a promise of something else. It is just what it is. If you have interest in a job or internship and your mentor is at a firm or a job or a business that you would want to work at, it's okay to express that desire. But you are 100% right. This is not a promise or a guarantee of anything else down the road. Jonathan, any other taboos, or you kind of do this peer-to-peer mentoring moment? Is there anything that can derail the mentoring experience by accident, or just anything you like to tell students to help keep them on track?
Yeah. Same thing that Amanda said. Definitely just don't act like it's an interview, like you're going to get the job or something like that. You're there to grow a relationship with that person. So work on that relationship. Don't necessarily work on, I am going to get a job from this. Don't think of it as that. Think of this as, I'm going to get a long lasting relationship and long lasting mentorship, knowing that I can have great advice whenever I need it. And then just some other taboos. I can't really think of any at the moment. I think just being like, one of your first questions you can ask is just how, like, ask your mentor, is just how open are you to sharing things? Like, is there anything that you're uncomfortable with, that you would like me not to ask? Those kinds of things, just kind of getting that communication right out there, just so you don't ask any of those questions that make your mentor uncomfortable or something like that.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Setting up the boundaries a little bit. That's a great idea. That's a good way to start. How can students be an active part of deepening the relationship? So we've talked a lot about how they can get started. What can they do as this process is going on? They'll have, hopefully 3-ish times to meet with their mentor. What can they do to, put some fertilizer in the garden, so to speak? Lorraine, is there things you've seen students do successful to help enrich the mentor relationship?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a two-way street, right? So mentors are sharing knowledge and the mentees are learning. But mentors can also learn a lot from the knowledge that the students are bringing. They're a younger generation. They're sort of learning what new technology is being used and maybe getting into VR and AR and sort of future thinking in a place where maybe someone who's 7 or 10 years into their career is sort of focused on something else and could use the shakeup from the student. So just knowing for all the students on the line that the knowledge that you have is super valuable to your mentor. So just take it as an opportunity to learn from each other and not see it as a one-way relationship, just see it as a symbiotic sort of collaboration and relationship building.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I mean, this year with it being virtual, we're pairing mentors from one city with students from a completely different city. So to me, that really empowers the students. I mean, you can talk about what design looks like in your city. You can talk about what design looks like at your school. Normally, geography might make it so the mentor is a little more aware of those things, but those are great talking points for you to present to your mentor. Like, here's what we're studying in Tallahassee. You're in Denver. Let's learn a little bit more about this, because it is different and the markets do look a little different. That's knowledge that you have that your mentor might not. Amanda, what else can students do to be an active part of this relationship?
Yeah, I think really voicing your opinions, and I think the mentors also, like Lorraine said before, really want to know about what you're up to, which sometimes I know like students don't realize. So just like speaking up about what you're up to, like what's going on in your world of design and how kind of different it is from whatever they're doing, and really comparing those interests can really spark a new inspiration or idea, I think.
Yeah, I like that. Natalie, what else can students do to be an active part of the relationship building?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I feel like the mentorship, this whole program is really just something to kickstart your relationship with your mentor afterwards. And with this new kind of virtual world that we're living in, there's so many, pretty easy ways to stay in touch, just like a simple email letting your mentor know what you're up to, or vice versa, or just sharing a project that you're working on and asking for feedback. Those are all just ways to help foster this relationship so it can really blossom into something else later.
Yeah, I like that. Being honest, being open, those are good things too, because they're going to help your mentor determine what road you should go down, what we should talk about. Being transparent a little bit, and to your comfort, obviously, that will help your mentor kind of hopefully give you some of the tools and resources and tips that will be specific to you. Jonathan, in your program, what advice do you give students who are interested in making sure that this is really fruitful?
Yeah, it goes along with a lot what Natalie said. Just keep in touch afterwards. It doesn't just end April 30th. That's just not, that's you want to keep in touch. You want to ask more questions if you want. You don't want to bombard them, of course, but they are your mentor. And if you have some questions, or hey, I have an interview coming up, can you look at my portfolio, or can you look at my resume, something like that. Definitely just keeping in touch with those, but also just asking how they're doing, what projects they're working on. Maybe you can kind of learn some things from that. Just that reaching out from them from that way too.
Yeah, that's really, really good. For the four of you, and I'll start with Amanda, how do we maximize the time? I think that being respectful of our time with the mentors, being respectful of, the Zoom fatigue, the finiteness of what we can do with each other online is really helpful to hear. But in your mind, what can a student or a mentor do to make sure that the time is spent really well together?
Yeah, for sure. I think it goes back to the whole idea of research. I think having like research questions already in hand can really save a lot of time rather than sometimes thinking on the fly. I think like organicness in a relationship is also very important, but I think that like extra little bit of research or knowledge before the mentoring sessions can really help on that time limit that we have.
Yeah, that I definitely think that's true. Jonathan, what else can students do or mentors do to make the most of their time together this year?
Yeah. So I would think just make a plan for yourself. You have three
Mm,
meetings, and just kind of think about what you want each of those focus of each of those meetings to be. So maybe the first one is just getting to know your mentor. Second one is more about the industry. And then the third one is more about other things, just like little details that you really want to know, or just different comparing contrast of like where you are versus your mentor, something like that. I think that can keep you on track. And then just making sure that you have those questions ready, and you make sure that you get the questions that you want answered. I think thinking on the fly, you might think of something like 2 days after, you're like, well, dang, I could have asked that question and I really want to know that. So that's something, just kind of being prepared. I think that could help you.
Yeah, definitely. I think prepare before the session starts. Don't use the session to prepare for the rest of the session. That will just be kind of a waste of time. So definitely try and be a little more efficient than that. Natalie, what else can folks do to make the most of it?
Yeah, I mean, this whole experience is just to help you foster relationships and, grow your own network. And so while you certainly want to develop a relationship with your mentor, like if there's any way to develop relationships outside of just your mentor, like within your mentor's organization, or if there's a way to participate in, some other like project meetings with them. It's just an opportunity for you to get yourself out there and to meet new people. And it doesn't always have to explicitly be your mentor.
Yes, I think that's an awesome piece of advice. Think bigger. It's not just, we've had a couple of questions come in, and I want to address them later in the Q&A, but they're kind of about, this mentor isn't exactly who I was hoping to talk to. This experience isn't exactly what I was expecting. That's okay. Again, having been around the industry for a long time, I don't think I've met anybody yet who has the same job they had when they started. And I mean that like wildly different. So it's okay. You might think that you want to do something now that's very specific to you, and that's great. But your mentor might have a different experience, and learning that different experience helps flesh out what you want to do, either by showing you how it could be different or reinforcing what you think. Either of those are valuable. So I think that that's really, really important. Lorraine, anything else that folks can do to maximize their time together?
Yeah, I would say before you meet up with your mentor, before the scheduled date, shoot some emails back and forth, preemptively send some questions about what you're interested in focusing on, and maybe they have an idea of what they'd like to focus on. And what I did in my mentorship session last year was really focus on time management and imbue that to the group that I was with. Just, this is a life skill. This is something that's going to help you not only in your career, but just your day-to-day to be more organized. So time management was huge. And then introducing the students to sort of the teamwork element and the collaboration in the office, because that's not something that gets as heavily taught in school. I mean, of course, you're working with the other people in your studio, but collaborating with an architect or a planner or these different folks who have a different skill set is a skill. So learning to collaborate and work with people and develop those soft skills, I think, is huge to focus on no matter what industry you're in. And maybe that's a good thing to focus on if you have a student who isn't necessarily in your exact sector of design. So
yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's super helpful. Really, really appreciate it. So I want to move into kind of measuring success with this mentoring relationship. So, how can you tell when it's been going well? How can you tell when it's been successful? What can you do to keep yourself kind of honest about how it's been going? Natalie, what do you think about that?
Well, I think one way you know how it's successful, I had people in my office asking me about where's Amanda? Like weeks after Amanda had left. And so, she made a big impact on our studio, but also I mean, it's a two-way street, and it's a valuable experience for the mentor as well. So for someone who is, I'm not from Southern California, but I'm working in the Gensler LA office, it's really a way for me to familiarize myself with, okay, like this is the kind of like project work, and these are the kind of students that are coming out of like these schools in the area. And it also helps familiarize other people in our studio with those kinds of students, which, may or may not be people we would normally engage with. And so valuable for everyone involved.
Yeah, I'm so thankful to hear that. And I'm also so glad that this webinar has slowly turned into like how great Amanda is. So I'm really glad that we could do that for everybody. Amanda, now, I'm going to jump to you. So what do you think what did you do to measure the success of the mentoring relationship? How did you keep yourself honest?
Yeah, I think Natalie is too kind, but it was really great being her mentee. I had a really good time. And I think how I measured it to be like a success or not is really the relationship that we built, like me and Natalie, as well as all the people that I've met at Gensler during my time there. And yeah, really just focusing on that, not necessarily kind of like the physical outcome or whatever I had in mind, but kind of just looking at like the relationship I've built and also my increase in knowledge of like the industry and everything that I've learned from Natalie and everyone there that day.
Awesome. Jonathan, how do you measure success in a mentoring moment, or what do you tell other peers of yours who are looking to try and do that during their experience?
Yeah, two things. One is the relationship that you've built, and then two is the knowledge that you've gained from it. So if you came in there wanting to gain a certain amount of knowledge and you've gained that knowledge, then I say that's successful mentorship. But if you can also go in there and say that you've gained a good mentor and great friend, then that's a plus plus.
I love that. Plus, plus. Okay, cool. That's a great way of doing it. Lorraine, what about you? How do you measure its success?
I don't know how to follow up to Jonathan. That was really great. I'd say day of success looks like happy faces, everyone had a good time, and you built that relationship and strengthened that bond with someone new. And then after that, just continuing to grow with the new knowledge that you've gained. And in my case, my mentor ended up winning the Wilson Art Essay Contest, so plug for that. And she wrote like very eloquently and beautifully about my company, Taylor Design's values of empowering people and sort of being humble but entrepreneurial at the same time. And so I was really touched that my message and the words about what my company cares about got across to her. So that was special to me.
That is really special. And that is also a really great plug. I mean, if you can't come up with, or if these goals that we've talked about or these measures of success don't resonate with you, give yourself the goal of being able to submit to this essay contest. Give yourself the goal of, I'm nervous, so I just want to do this 3 times, or I just want to get through 3 of these. Those can all be really, really good goals. Another thing I'll say too is that we gave you a little bit more information. This is for the mentors and the students attending the webinar today. We gave you some LinkedIn information. We gave you some personal websites or company websites. Use that to develop your goals. Use that to develop the relationship in advance. The point of that was so that you all would maybe get a chance to be a little more connected in advance of meeting virtually the first time. So please, please, please make the use of those resources if you can. I have one more question, and then it looks like we have about 15 minutes or so, and we've got a ton of questions from people attending. So I want to try and get to those. My last question is just, I want to kind of sum all of this up for everybody attending. So I'd just love to hear from each of you briefly, if you could give the students one thing to try and get out of this experience, what would you hope that they would get out of it? And Amanda, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I really hope that for those participating in the program this year, to create that long-lasting friendship and relationship. And I think that's for me the most important and what I have gained during my mentorship program. And the second is to really deep dive into the industry and get like this awesome quick look at what could possibly be you in a couple years as for the mentees. And so, yeah, that's great. I hope that those are the 2 things that you can get.
Yeah, that's great. And if you're like Amanda, maybe you'll also become a celebrity in an office that you visited. So that's very, very cool. Jonathan, what about you? What would you say? What would you want students to take away the most, or what would you want mentors to take away the most?
Yeah, so I think one thing to take away is, again, just that relationship. As long as you have that relationship, you can always rely on them and reach out to them if you need something for help. But I also hope that just anyone that's taking it, they just kind of know more about who they are as a person, what they want to do in their careers. So if you, throughout this mentorship, you grow a great relationship, and maybe you went to a large commercial and you're like, after talking to my mentor, maybe that's not where I want to be. So then you start focusing on other sectors. That's a really great accomplishment, just kind of knowing more about you yourself and knowing what you want to do.
Yeah, that's great. I know we have some questions here that are all about, what if the our experiences don't line up. This is an industry where there is always overlap. So if it's not exactly one-to-one, spend your time talking about where your areas meet. I'm interested in residential, your healthcare. Well, where do those meet? Because they do. And you could spend all 3 sessions just talking about what maybe you would think is only a sliver of intersection, but I can promise you there's a ton of information and things to go over. So think about it that way too. Don't only think about it as like, I need to meet one-to-one. Natalie, what else? How could we sum this up for people?
Yeah, kind of similar to what everyone's been saying. I mean, just learning how to foster relationships is a huge skill and takes time to learn. And then just having a heightened understanding of the industry, even if it means learning what you don't want to do, that's much better to figure out sooner rather than later, and is still like that's valuable knowledge to have. So either way, even if it's, it's your dream firm and this is where you want to be, or maybe this like isn't your path, like that's okay. It's all valuable.
Yes, I could not agree with that more. This is extra and it is supposed to be valuable. So if it is not valuable, remember that it is extra and do what you need to do to make it valuable, or also let it be what it will be and you will find a different experience next time. Lorraine, what else can we do? What else can students really try to aim for during this?
Yeah, I would say as a student, maybe you don't have as much experience in the industry yet. So just remain curious, because you might have a very set idea of what you want to do, like myself, speaking from experience. And then you experience something new and go, whoa, this is interesting or intriguing, or I want to know more. I have some more questions, and let it sort of snowball and build and take you somewhere amazing. And it's only going to help you develop your authentic voice as a designer. And this experience and these relationships, like everyone has mentioned, is only going to help you gain more clarity and figure out, what is it? What do I want to do?
Yes, I like that so much. Thank you for sharing that. That's really, really good to hear. So I want to go to our Q&A now. We have a ton of questions, which is awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you for asking all of them. As we transition into this, before I start spitting some of the questions at the 4 of you, I'm going to go through some of the ones that I can answer, which are just kind of about the program. So if you haven't heard back from your mentor, or you haven't heard from your mentee, or you're having some communication challenge, that would be a time to reach out to me. So again, that email address is students@iida.org, or you can email me directly at rben@iida.org. And that, if you have any kinds of scheduling at all, anything like that, just please reach out to me and let me know. We had a question about whether or not people are planning the dates or doing anything like that during this webinar. No, don't worry about that. You'll work directly with your connection to establish what days you want to meet. There's a 6-week window to meet up with one another. You could meet all 3 times in one day, or you could meet every couple of weeks. The choice is really yours. For the mentors, I will say, think strategically maybe about when you think you can give the students an experience that either meets what they're hoping to have or gives them a little bit of variety. So if you do an all team meeting on Fridays, then maybe a Friday is a good day to meet, and maybe the last half hour of your meeting is you getting to introduce that student to the rest of your team. For students, if you're working on a project and your mentor has agreed to maybe take a look at it, maybe it's the last half hour of your studio time becomes the first half hour of your mentoring moment. So feel free to do that on your own, but let me know if you ever have any questions about that. Do people need to prepare an agenda or anything like that? I don't think you have to do that. It doesn't have to be that specific. Again, this is meant to be more of a conversation between the 2 of you, so you all can have that conversation about what you want it to do and what you want it to be. This is a question I want to have all of you answer, though, because I can't answer it. It's a question about money. How can students maybe approach a conversation about how much the mentor makes, or how much an interior designer might make? Is it appropriate to have a financial or fiduciary kind of conversation during this, or is it not appropriate? Natalie, I'll start with you, just in whatever thoughts you have.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think it's okay. I mean, money is important. I think it's okay to kind of ask like a ballpark range of, what to expect to help set expectations. I don't know, everybody's a little different. So maybe like leaning away from how much do you specifically make is just a safer option. Just, you know, stick to generalizations.
Yes, I think that's a great idea. Lorraine, anything to add?
Yeah, I would say do your research again, like Amanda's mentioned a couple times for other questions. IIDA actually has a really lovely amalgamation of information about salary ranges for the different positions. So that has been a really good benchmark for myself and for me to direct other people to for our industry standards as far as money goes.
Yeah, that's great advice. I would also say too, you wanting to ask that question might have, to Lorraine's point earlier, like a specific why. Maybe your question is related to you being worried about supporting a family, or maybe your question is related to what I'm really nervous about is how do I do salary negotiation? Like, I'm kind of asking you this question because what I really want to talk about is the negotiation moment. So if you get the impression or are even told that that's not something your mentor would want to discuss with you, there might be another version of the question that you two of you can discuss and share. So we have another question that came in that it's, would it be okay to ask the mentor for samples of what an interior designer submits to a project? What do you think about that, Natalie?
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of depends on the project, the confidentiality of the project, but I think it's great, you know, for a mentor to share like, all right, this was my design development presentation that I gave last week. Like, this is kind of an idea of what to expect. I think that's something I definitely did with Amanda, just to show her what I'm working on, so she knows, you know, what the future could look like.
Yeah, that's great. Lorraine, anything else to add?
Yeah, I would say I love sharing my work and being transparent with what I'm working on as long as it's not confidential. In my last mentorship session, I checked with the group and checked what they wanted to kind of see and participate in. And we actually involved them in an early schematic design phase, design blitz. So everyone from the team, strategists, architects, planners, everyone was involved, and we did a creative exercise together, and they got to participate. So not only were they seeing my work, they were actually participating and involved in the process to see what it's like hands-on.
Man, that is really cool. That's awesome. That's a great suggestion for the mentors who are watching. That's awesome. Awesome. Jonathan and Amanda, we had a question come in that is, I'm guessing from a student, but it's about, you know, in addition to this experience, so this is this very specific mentoring experience, what can students or mentors potentially do to explore other opportunities like this? Jonathan, I imagine you get this question a lot just because of your involvement in your mentoring at your school. So what is your answer to that when people ask?
Yeah, my answer is always just ask your first and beforehand. Just ask your mentor if there's anything else they could be having maybe some kind of CEU training that you can go to or something like that. Maybe not necessarily the big CEUs. Maybe it's like an NCIDQ day or something like that. Also, reach out to your school. Your school probably all have organizations through IIDA, and reach out to them, see what they're doing, what events they're pulling. Of course, always go to IIDA events. They're always having IIDA events. I'm gonna put that plug in there again.
Jonathan, you're too good to us. You're too good to us.
That's just what I always tell people that are asking what can I do more, is just reach out and just go, be open for anything really. You can learn anything from any kind of design event, design kind of virtually or in person, those kinds of things.
Very cool. Yeah, I like that a lot. Amanda, anything to add? Anything you've done to maybe find an additional experience like this?
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree with everything that Jonathan said, and so right to just like be open to everything that's around, whether it's virtual or in person. Participating in what I love to do is like design exhibitions to really broaden kind of like your knowledge and also what's in the industry so far. Going through school to know what internships are available, kind of just being open with yourself and also your skill set to really be able to develop yourself as a person and as a designer. I think that's really great.
Yeah, that's awesome. I really, really appreciate that advice. I would also add, another part of that question was kind of like, how do you curate that mentor experience? You know, how do you find a mentor if this experience doesn't quite do it for you. And I think it's two things. I would say that one is being honest about that being what you're looking for is really important. If you're looking for a mentor who will do specifically mentory type things, then tell that to people. Be honest with them that that's kind of what you're looking for. So that way nobody accidentally meets missing you there. The other thing I would say, and to Jonathan's point, I'm attending events, attending webinars, doing things that will force you to be around other people who could potentially be a mentor. That is going to help. I don't know if anybody gets a mentor alone in their house. So I would say that if that's where you are, especially right now in this virtual environment, a lot of these webinars and CEUs end up having a breakout room session afterwards, or a lot of people will post on LinkedIn about attending things, and that's a great opportunity to comment on it or to interact with them in that way. Flattery will get you usually somewhere in this business. And so I think thinking about ways where you can celebrate other people and using that as a way to start a conversation with them, that's helpful too. I think that those are all the questions that I have for all of you. Real quickly, we had a couple more program questions come in. You do not have to schedule them according to any kind of specific schedule, so don't worry about scheduling your sessions to anything really specific. We had somebody ask if they need to determine what time to meet in advance, and I would say yes. I would say schedule that with your mentor or mentee in advance, and pick what platform you all want to use in advance. Again, the more you can do with each other in advance of your meeting, the better. Oh, this is an interesting question. So this program is a mentoring program that we do here at IIDA headquarters. Somebody asked how people were paired. I paired all of you. So we had 650 people sign up, and I spent a week going through everybody's bios and LinkedIn's and areas of interest to try and pair you to the best of my ability. So I say that because if I miss the mark with anybody, or if anybody feels like the pairing isn't quite what they're looking for, that would be another opportunity to reach out to me and email me, and I can try and find an alternative experience. I will say, I will push all of you to engage in the experience that you've been given, just because even if you wanted something else, that's okay. But I think there is value to be had in experiencing maybe the experience that you didn't quite think you'd get. I guess I could probably say the word experience 10 more times, but I probably won't instead. So I think that those are all of the big questions. I'm so glad. I want to thank all of you again, Lorraine, Amanda, Jonathan, and Natalie. Thank you for being here. I'm so appreciative. These are not any fun when it's just me rambling for an hour. So it's much more fun with all of you here. So thank you. I really appreciate it. Everybody, we're a couple minutes early, but I think I'm just going to count that as a win. Thank you for being here. We're so glad to have you all as participants in this program. If you need anything from me, please reach out. We are here for you. Thank you. Oh, and the recording for this will be available in the FAQ section of the mentoring website. So that link I sent you earlier, that's where we will populate this recording. So I think that about does it for me. Lorraine, Natalie, Jonathan, Amanda, thank you again. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Ryan.
Yeah, of course.
Everyone.
Yeah, thank you all so much. We really appreciate it.